This is Away, Series 2, a podcast for anyone interested in a fresh approach to 12-step recovery. I'm your host, Steph Roberts. This is episode 16. Hello! This is going to be the final episode of Series 2. I am going to do a Series 3 that relates to all this. By all this, I mean the book, the steps, but also about sober life and sober living and what a quote-unquote happy life looks like for me. I'm hoping, too, to have some discussions with fellow travelers in the rooms or just looking for a way to be their best selves. So that'll be Series 3. But Series 2, I'm going to wrap it up with Chapter 7, Working with Others. I'm doing that for a few reasons, but really the only reason, or the most important reason, is basically that the remainder of the book is, at best, repetitive and really just a lot of nonsense. I mean, not entirely, but mostly. And of course, that's just in my opinion. Anyway, let's read. Practical experience shows that nothing will so much ensure immunity from drinking as intensive work with other alcoholics. It works when other activities fail. This is our 12th suggestion. Carry this message to other alcoholics. You can help when no one else can. You can secure their confidence when others fail. Remember, they are very ill. Life will take on new meaning to watch people recover, to see them help others, to watch loneliness vanish, to see a fellowship grow up about you, to have a host of friends. This is an experience you must not miss. We know you will not want to miss it. Frequent contact with newcomers and with each other is the bright spot of our lives. I really love this paragraph. There's no God, nothing offensive, nothing antiquated. It is true. It may be slightly exaggerated, but helping others really feels good, and seeing them flourish also feels really good, and then watching them help the next person feels really good. It's just sort of, like it's all good, even in the face of difficult personalities. So working with others, this chapter, the idea, and step 12 are all the same thing. And you'll hear people in the rooms of AA refer to all the steps as the quote-unquote work. Like, that is, if you do the work, you'll stay sober. But it's my opinion now, thanks in great part to many of my sober mentors, including my husband, that I actually see steps 1 through 9 as foundational steps, steps 10 and 11 as maintenance steps, and step 12 as the quote-unquote work. Right? Like 1 through 9, now I've made myself a bit better, healthier, kinder. I'm working to keep that up. I'm constantly trying to to be better or to at least live up to the original goals I set for myself in sobriety. So now that that foundation has been laid and I'm maintaining that relatively healthy condition of mind, body, and spirit, now it's time to do the work. Now it's time to help others. So only now that I have put the oxygen mask firmly on myself can I really put it onto others. I have to be breathing in order to help others breathe. And then by helping others, I'm actually still continuing to help myself because it does feel good. Esteemable acts build self-esteem. When we do good things, we feel better about ourselves. And I suggest start by just giving back in the rooms. And that can mean anything from making coffee to sponsoring, speaking. And you really don't have to do it all. Service in the rooms of AA means many things. And you're not, or you shouldn't be expected to be good at or comfortable with all of it. Try it. Don't try it. Do something to give back. We are meant to give back what was so freely given to us. That's going to look a little different in everybody's story, but it really is an important part of sobriety. And also, like a quote unquote good person does that, right? It's we give back. We are as generous with ourselves as people have been with us. Then I think once you've found your footing, not only in the rooms, but in the world, in life, or refound your footing maybe, then you can start to be of service in other ways and to other people too. Now that you've built a sturdy foundation for sobriety, in sobriety, you're actually free to live. And don't let anyone tell you otherwise. You may be someone whose life is centered around AA, the people in the rooms. That may be true for you, and that is incredible. What a gift. What a gift you've given yourself. You deserve it. Some people, that isn't true. Some people use AA as a maintenance tool. They go to one meeting a week, maybe one meeting a month. They talk to other alcoholics regularly. Maybe they're sponsors. Again, there isn't one way. You'll find how it fits into your life as your life develops and grows. So remember that, because I think sometimes you'll hear people say things that are in opposition to that. If you don't go to a meeting every day, if you don't call 3 alcoholics every day, that is not 100% true, but that is super important in early sobriety. But time, confidence, a recovered mental state, a recovered physical state of health, all that means that AA may not always play a central role in your life. That doesn't mean you should not remain vigilant and do the things you need to do to take care of yourself and keep the oxygen mask on. But those things, that may grow, that may grow. So you may add meditation, you may add all kinds of things in the pursuit of maintenance of a healthy mind and body. All of that counts. And one of those tools should always be working with others and helping others, because not only will it help others, but it will keep you in the green, as they say. It will help you to remember why you made this choice in the first place. Because life can get tough and sometimes we forget. And working with others is is both unselfish and selfish. As quite frankly, I think most philanthropy or giving is to some degree. We don't only do it because it helps other people. It makes us feel good. Okay, we're going to skip right ahead to the last page of this chapter. This is a little advice from the writers to keep in mind when attempting to help other alcoholics. A lot of this chapter is dedicated to helping other alcoholics, but it's antiquated. It's talking about how to help in 1939. The meetings didn't look like they do now. People weren't as aware yet of the program. It wasn't as big. It was growing, but also just safety and our day-to-day lives look very different now. So you're not going to go out on the street and pick up a homeless addict or alcoholic, or really you shouldn't. I mean, men may go do that. I am not an advocate for that. I think putting yourself in danger to go help someone else, I've said this before, is not the best solution. If someone is about to commit suicide, it is not your job to go save them. It is your job to call the police to help them. I just never advocate for putting your own life in any danger or your own sobriety in any danger. And if you feel like you absolutely have to go to that person, it is really important that you bring another sober person with you, or more than one. Okay, last page. We are careful never to show intolerance or hatred of drinking as an institution. Experience shows that such an attitude is not helpful to anyone. Every new alcoholic looks for this spirit among us and is immensely relieved when he finds we are not witch burners. A spirit of intolerance might repel alcoholics whose lives have been saved had it not been for such stupidity. We would not even do the cause of temperate drinking any good, for not one drinker in 1,000 likes to be told anything about alcohol by one who hates it. So, I mean, this is pretty solid advice, and tolerance is a pretty good trait to take with you through all of life. Intolerance, by definition, shuts you off from more than just the sunlight of the Spirit, as the book says. I mean, it all seems especially important right now to talk about intolerance in this current political climate. And I mean, just looking around you, you see what it does to people, what that kind of anger does, what that kind of narrow-mindedness does. It certainly does not enhance them, their knowledge, their wisdom, their life experience, and it does worse than that in the world. So I think if you're looking to be your best self and to be the best citizen of the world you can be, intolerance is not the way to go. Doesn't mean you have to love every individual, but to accept that every individual has a different story and therefore a different perspective. I mean, I'm listening to this Sam Harris podcast, and I just listened to one where he's interviewing Charles Murray, who wrote The Bell Curve, and I realized how narrow-minded I was about The Bell Curve, and mostly because I didn't read the whole thing, I didn't fully understand the concepts, and instead of formulating my own opinions about it, I relied on the opinions of others. Now, I'm not saying it's my favorite book or that I love Charles Murray. I'm just saying that by keeping an open mind, I got to really hear him speak about his own work. And, I'm grateful to Sam Harris for giving me an opportunity to listen to someone who I never otherwise would have listened to. Anyway, another tangent. And I guess this is not an unreasonable segue, but there's nothing more cringe-inducing than someone, especially someone with 90 days, telling anyone who will listen how virtuous he has become by getting sober and how everybody should get sober. It's pretty cringe-inducing at any point, right? because, you know, take it down, pull back a minute. Like, I remember one guy saying, like, a woman at a meeting was like, you should never use that language. How dare you, blah, blah, blah. And he said to me after, I mean, I remember her, you know, giving guys blowjobs in the bathroom just 6 months ago at the bar. So it's not that we're judging the behavior of giving blowjobs at the bar, but like, don't make haste to climb up on your high horse, right? Don't forget that, like, we were all kind of badly behaved at one point. So we don't really have high horses to sit on. We can be proud of ourselves, and certainly real confidence comes from that, but that is very different. We've got a lot of preachers in my husband's home group. Woo! I mean, that one guy I always bring up, very shady past, and sits way high up. Oh, it's so gross. So keep in mind that through both of these series, Series 1 and Series 2, the point is that this is a way. AA is itself but one way to get sober. And within the program of AA, there is not only one way. The tie that binds is service. The core of this whole program, its basis, is one alcoholic talking to another. That's everything. Only one alcoholic can really understand another. Only one addict in NA can only really understand it. Your experiences are similar, so you can hear that other person in a different way. Our single most powerful tool when we set out to help others is, in fact, our life story, our experience. Our theories, our opinions, our ideas matter most, help the most when they're born of experience. Wisdom is not knowledge alone, but knowledge gained through experience. So by now, I hope that you've realized that it is the things about which you have felt the most shame or anguish that will actually now become your most powerful tools when working with others. So it's with these two things, the preamble and the responsibility pledge, that I will end this series. Let's go through the preamble, which really says it all. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution. Does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And the responsibility pledge. I am responsible when anyone, anywhere, reaches out for help. I want the hand of AA always to be there. And for that, I am responsible. I mean, why there has to be the added, and for that I am responsible, I don't know, but it is a great thing. And between it and the preamble, that is AA. That is AA right there in those two things. AA as an institution. So, as I said, I want to start a series 3 that moves away from the book and the steps. Not entirely, of course, but I want to use my life, I guess, my wisdom, past and present, to hopefully help you navigate a way not only through the big book and the steps, but just through stuff, through life. Maybe you'll think of me or the podcast as like an adjunct sponsor, or maybe you'll use it to help you better understand a concept or an idea or another way. Maybe you'll use it to help someone else through something when you don't fully understand his or her perspective. I only really know that I hope to reveal more about myself and my history so that maybe someone else feels less alone. The idea of a third series arose because I've been listening to Sam Harris's podcast, Making Sense. It's really good. It's really, really good. Even if you don't agree with him on everything, it's good. And something he said in a discussion with Sally Satel, who's a psychiatrist who's been sort of on the addiction front for a long time, front lines, really resonated with me, or I guess with my sober, my AA self. And it actually kind of goes back to steps 4 and 5 about how often for addicts recovering, one of the worst things to do is make them relive their most traumatic events, because that is in and of itself a trigger for many people, so it makes sense when people are really scared of steps 4 and 5, like some intuition, some part of you understands that this may be a trigger. If that's true, hold off a little, wait till you feel like you can, or address the most blatant things, the most present things. That doesn't, you don't have to really necessarily go that deep the first time. People will disagree with me on that. But, I do think, like, if you're in it, you're in it. But there's so much more science now that, I don't know. We'll get into that in Series 3. Then I decided to reboot my own meditation practice. And by reboot, I mean become more disciplined. So I downloaded Sam's Waking Up app, which is great. What I started with is really for a beginner, and I think it's actually amazing for a beginner, especially someone who feels like, I could never meditate. Meditation is way more than just sitting in silence in the long term. The long-term proposition of it is to just become more, all kinds of things, to sharpen your mind, I guess. So for the beginner, I think it's amazing. As someone with some meditation time under my belt, I guess it feels a little slow. But the point for me right now is to get back into doing it daily, no matter what. So this is a really good starting place. And that's just goal 1. Just do it every day. Again, I'm off track. So I'm listening to one of the lessons within the app, following a meditation. And I realized why steps 6 and 7 are so important, in my opinion. They are the practice for the practice. They're sort of setting the stage, training for it. It's like early days of meditation, getting used to it. So that 10 and 11 maintenance steps are not foreign, not new, and you can sort of bring this practice into your life in a more real way. You've practiced for the practice, and you call it a practice in meditation, like in yoga, because there is no perfection, there is no end per se. All of it in the end is about mindfulness, and try not to let that word make you grit your teeth or cringe or whatever. Mindfulness has taken on too many nonsensical, new agey meanings, but its practice is centuries old, and it's very reasonable, and it doesn't have to have anything to do with the supernatural. It certainly doesn't for me, and I guess that's why I like Sam Harris's app, because he is an atheist. So I guess I basically started series 3 here. But so that series 3 isn't just a lot of rambling, I am going to stop here. If you want a strongly opinionated review or summary of the last few chapters of the book, head back into my series 1 of this podcast, where you'll find an episode titled Two Wives or Not to Anyone, and the episode Abandon Yourself to Life. I think those will sort of give you a brief idea of the final chapters, including my opinions on them. I do hope you'll join me for Series 3. Now that we've built our foundations for life, let's find a way through the rest of it together.